Maendeleo Chap leader and Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua and his Kitui counterpart Charity Ngilu, who also doubles up as NARC party leader, joined ODM leader Raila Odinga to rally support for the ODM candidate Bernard Imran Okoth ahead of the by-election scheduled for next week, Thursday. Main political parties have adopted the strategy of using tribal arithmetic, where leaders meet members of various ethnic communities resident in the constituency in a town hall set up to rally support for their candidates. Ford Kenya Deputy Party Leader Richard Onyonka made forays in Kibra to campaign for the party candidate Hamisi Butichi. Take a look.
Ford Kenya candidate Hamisi Butichi echoed the party symbol as he crisscrossed Kibra constituency in a whistle start, whistle stop campaign through a road show.
Kini naenda kwa Simba kukula wale ambao wanataka kusaidia kuharibu mambo ya Kibra. We are tired of cartels.
Mtu ambaye anaweza akafanya kazi yenu vizuri ni huyo kijana wa Ford Kenya Hamisi Butichi.
Ukipata mtoto amesomea Kibra na akasoma mpaka akawa mhandisi, lazima umwangalie vizuri. Kwa hivyo ningependa kuwasihi wana Kibra, ikiwezekana mpatie yeye nafasi awafanyie kazi.
The Ford Kenya team had earlier in the day attended a church service with members of the Seventh-day Adventists before hitting the road.
Check yetu ikuje na education, check yetu ikuje na empowerment of the youth, check yetu ikuje na empowerment of women.
At the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Foundation offices Nairobi, Maendeleo Chap party leader Alfred Mutua and NARC party leader Charity Ngilu rallied a section of members from the Akamba community to support ODM candidate Bernard Imran.
Kamba wajua kwamba tuko na kamba wote pamoja.
They held hands with ODM party leader Raila Odinga in a show of unity.
Handshake inafanya kazi. Na huyu Imran ndio kijana wa handshake. Wale wengine ni pata potea wanacheza.
This is the defining moment for us. Ili tuonyeshe ya kwamba tumekata kusema mtu yule ataongoza Kibra ni yule tumeonyeshwa na baba na hakuna mwingine.
Kwa jamii ya Wakamba, nataka kusema kwa hii by election tungetaka kuona mumesupporta wa candidate.
Raila said Imran was the best choice for Kibra.
Kupeleka Kibra mbele, nyinyi kina mama, wazee, vijana wetu, msisawishiwe na ile pesa ambayo tunapewa. Pesa chukua, lakini usiweke hapa kwa akili.
Tuko na plan upgrading program nzuri kwa Kibra. Mwingine anakuja sasa pale anasema ati analeta sijui mtu kupiga mchezo mpira. Anasema ati anakaa pale atamsaidia. Yeye ni makamu wa rais wakati huu. Kwa nini afanye hiyo kazi? Anangoja nini?
Deputy President William Ruto poked holes in Mutua and Ngilu handshake with Raila in the Kibra race.
Mambo kule Kibra kimeumana. Yule mzee wa bedroom sasa ameuliza usaidizi kutoka watu wengine, sijui chama gani, sijui kundi gani. Ukiona mtu ameuliza usaidizi kwa bedroom, ujue mambo kimeumana.
Amani National Congress candidate Eliud Owalo held two separate town hall meetings with members of the Kamba and Kikuyu community to sell his agenda for Kibra.
I'll put in place an appropriate corporate governance framework that will ensure that we have prudent utilization of funds in line with the law, the CDF Act and the Public Financial Management Act. Ili mwananchi ya kawaida apate usaidizi na haki yake.
As the campaigns get to the home stretch, politicians from major political parties are now mobilizing members of ethnic communities perceived to be populous in Kibra to convince them to vote for their candidates in a battle that has been billed to be a four-horse race pitting ODM, Jubilee, ANC and Ford Kenya. Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
All right, so the voters in Kibra will be going to the polls on Thursday, 7th of November, to decide to make that big decision who the next member of parliament is going to be. A lot has been happening. There are big rallies set for this afternoon. Dismas, what's your crystal ball telling you?
Well, things are very complicated in Kibra. The deputy president has indicated that some people have invaded Raila's bedroom and that there is a crisis. But when you look at the global picture in Kibra, And you know, we made the prediction here a few weeks back that it was going to be a proxy war. For instance, if you go to Kibra right now and you ask the voters, an average voter, who is the ODM candidate, they will likely tell you Raila Odinga. And who is the Jubilee candidate, they will likely tell you William Samoei Ruto. Mariga can't even address a rally on his own motion. During a news conference, when people want to find out whether he's got a manifesto or whether he knows what he's talking about, he will always ask Nixon Korir or Boni Kalwale to answer questions for him. For Imran, he doesn't even have the opportunity of meeting the media. Raila Odinga answers all the questions. And then also there is Owalo on the other side. And in my view, we are not going to get out of this mess as voters if we don't start looking at the value proposition of each candidate. For instance, if you place Owalo, Mariga, and Imran, and you take them to the National Assembly and you tell them we have a crisis today, there's a budget cut, can you give us a prognosis? Can you give us a way forward? Mariga will probably ask you to translate the question to Swahili, or he'll go looking for Kalwale or Korir. For Imran, understand he's very arrogant, he'll probably chase you. And maybe Owalo is the only person who will be able to understand. But as it is, the voters back there are not looking at the value proposition. They're not looking at Owalo or Imran or Mariga and asking themselves, if they go to the National Assembly, what are they going to do? Instead, they're looking at the proxy war. Understand there have been endless meetings at ODM. Raila has been hosting tribal delegations. You see all the governors are trooping. They want to be associated with him. Others are even going to him on bended knees. They want to be seen with him in Kibra. Then when you go to the other side about the deputy president, there are endless queues of people going to his current residence. Even at some stage, people are asking, where is this election taking place? Is it in Langata, or is it going to be at Weston or at his residence? And this is going to be our tragedy, because the people of Kibra, if they're not very careful, they're going to vote because of a lot of color. Because I understand today there's going to be a lot of rallies. There's going to be a display of muscle. There's going to be a competition on who comes with the highest number of choppers. I'm not even sure whether there's enough space in Kibra for all those choppers. And these are top-of-the-range vehicles. And they're going to be lied to. For instance, some of the people are saying that if you vote for my candidate, I'm going to bring roads, I'm going to create employment opportunities for you.
All right.
And this is the serving administration. So why can they do that today? Why are they waiting for Mariga to be elected? It reminds us of Kipipiri. If I don't know whether anybody's old enough here to understand that at some stage there was a serious by-election, and Kenya Power was ordered to go and install electricity and everything else. But when Kanu lost, the following day, everything was put on a truck and taken back to Nairobi. And that's a similar situation we are going to be having.
The same kind of politics playing out today.
Yeah, because all these leaders, there's nobody who is addressing the substantive issues. I mean, when you have the deputy president...
But it's a political race. You cannot remove the politics from it.
Yeah, it's a political race. But who says there are political races that are supposed to be anchored on propaganda, mischief? And you see, unfortunately for the people of Kibra, when a politician speaks, especially when he's come with an helicopter or a V8, you know, top-of-the-range car, because majority of them are vulnerable, they actually believe. For them, they don't expect a politician to lie. They believe what you are saying. And it's based on this that Kenya is... I mean, he likes talking about a prison prefect running Nairobi. You know, bias, remorse. At some stage, people ask themselves, I'm actually able to recall my vote. And you've seen the way this, I mean, like the governors going for Raila Odinga. All of them, you know, forming queues. They want to kiss the governor's ring. And they're not addressing anything substantive. And then we begin asking ourselves, why are you discussing about 2022? Why is the cost of doing business in Kenya very high? For instance, those people in Kibera, one of the major issues they want is somebody to sort out the drainage. Nobody among those candidates talking about a drainage. Instead, they're saying, tawaletea kazi, tawaletea barabara. And you know, you're telling people, tawaletea kazi na barabara, and when they go back home, okay, they'll be able to afford a meal that day because you are being given money. You remember the other day, Kalwale was addressing a meeting, and according to media reports, he was told, we boss, tupatie pesa tuende, wacha kuongea mambo mingi. You know, now those are the issues that we are mistreating Kenyans.
A lot has been said, Mark, in this, in the run-up to this by-election. There has been the proxy wars. They have been talked about. They have not gone anywhere anytime. Have not gone anywhere for the entire period of the campaigns. What's at play right now from where you sit?
The most unfortunate thing in my mind, Ben, is the fact that this is the one constituency where you would expect that the voters would have chosen classroom for classroom, development for development, idea for idea. The saddest thing is that when we brought national leaders into the debate, it became about tribe. That's the saddest thing. That Ken Okoth, a leader of a small constituency, 1 out of 300, had better character than Raila Odinga, William Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi put together. Because as Dismas has put it, this election is not about issues. Now, who are the people who brought in the non-issues? The so-called national leaders. And that is the shame in this election. That when you bring in Wazee in this country, everything in Aribika. That is the sad part. It should not be the case. The second sad part is this, that there are people who have the power and have had the power to change the fate of people of Kibra and are now giving them promises when the power is still present with them. That is a sad reality. That I have the money to pay for your hospital bill in my pocket, and I tell you, listen, until you vote in my guy, I'm not dealing with your disease. That's the second sad reality. The third sad reality is this is being used as a way of creating political opportunity and political mileage for some people. That some leaders of national repute have decided it is a chance for either to embarrass themselves or to teach others lessons. That's what we've reduced leadership to in this country. That now it's an ego contest. We do not care about the person in Kibra. We do not care that the people that we are fronting to elect, some of them cannot argue themselves out of a traffic offense because they cannot string together a sentence. And we want them to represent people in parliament. We want them to legislate. We are complaining that we selected a certain Wamboi ex-MP to lead the conversation around unemployment. Now, what are we doing to the people of Kibra? Giving them a similar person, just younger and male. That is the problem with this country. I wish everyone... But
where are the people, Mark? The people have the biggest role to play. They allow themselves to be used like this. They are the ones who will go to the ballot.
Unfortunately, IQ is not cumulative. If you ask the people in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago, between a thief and Jesus, who would they rather keep alive? They would tell you a thief. This is the nature of crowds. Crowd mentality has to be managed. And how do you manage it? By giving them opportunity to choose proper leaders. Today, if you ask me what Imran Okoth sounds like, I have no idea, because I've had Raila's speeches about it more than I've had him. I've had Sifuna insult people more than I've had Imran. If you ask me, other than Sindio, what is the policy of Mariga, I have no idea. Because every sentence, every statement, Sindio, Vijana, Sindio, that's it. That's the sum total of the Mariga candidacy. That is the problem. And if we are not going to address that, and I'm addressing ODM and I'm addressing Jubilee, let local politics be about local issues and the solutions that are needed there. And never again in this country should a sitting president, vice president, former prime minister come to promise people things they should do and can do where they are. You cannot go to Kibra today, you're a deputy president of a country, and promise them roads. Why are you promising them roads?
All right. Well said. Hesbon, what is your take on the proxy wars, Jubilee and ODM basically, and of course other political parties coming into it? We saw yesterday, and the tribal aspect of it, the Kamba community, the Wiper party leader there, the NAC leader there. How does this look?
Well, I don't think it looks good. Looking at where we are coming from and the promises that are inherent in the handshake, you'd expect a situation where ideas would be contending in parliamentary elections with the top leadership keeping off, or if they go, They go with serious and fundamental issues that can be contended by the electorate and political leaders to give, the society, a basis upon which to make their decision. But that has not happened. I have no problem with tribal politics because in this part of the world, we mobilize, politics along tribe. My biggest issue is if tribe is the only card that you've got, then there's a problem. You cannot just, balkanize people and look for votes without articulating issues that will address their plight. And I think that is the predominant theme that we've seen recurring. People are looking for tribal votings, but they're not talking about what they're going to deliver. But I think fundamentally, the proxy wars have taken a different tangent. We knew that this was going to be framed as a fight between the former prime minister and the deputy president. But I think it has taken another level. It is now a question of how do you anchor yourself as a political leader on either the deputy president or the former prime minister. And what we are seeing coming out is alignments that have nothing to do with Kibra, nothing to do with the elections, but alignments that are accumulating political capital for individuals who are anchoring themselves either on the prime minister or the deputy president, which from where I see it is very unfortunate because we keep talking about no politics, not 2022 politics, but we do it in a very subtle way that is a lot more deceptive and a lot more detrimental to the citizenry. And that is what we are seeing in Kibra. Now, the other thing that I probably see coming out, two more critical things, the ugly face of political intolerance. We've seen violence, which is very unfortunate. I mean, the promises of the handshake, in as much as the BBI is not yet out, the promises of the handshake were, to give us a very conducive environment that is a lot more inclusive. And the thinking was politicians would then start attending to issues and not pleasing their political godfathers. But that is what we are seeing, that they are whipping emotions of the citizenry against certain politicians. And we've seen different formations of the contesting political parties in Kibra met violence on other political. Actually, all of them seem to be guilty, which is unfortunate. And then the second thing that I think is also critical is that we don't, the voices of the candidates seem to be a lot more muted in the public sphere. We are not hearing more of Imran, Owalo, and Mariga. And of course, there are 24 candidates. So we don't even get to hear of the others. And it's simply because of the political capital that the three main political parties that are fronting these candidates have. Right. And the unfortunate thing is now we are judging them on trivialities. I mean, leadership has nothing to do with how you can articulate yourself in English. I have never believed in that. I've met Imran, I've met Mariga, I've interacted with Eli Doalo, and I don't think the way they speak English has anything to do with their solid infrastructure to lead. And I think people need to be given an opportunity to express themselves and articulate issues in the language that they want. I actually think that we need to move to a situation where Eliud Kipchoge wins a marathon and addresses the world in Kalenjin, or better still, in Kiswahili, which is an East African lingua franca.
The rest of the world gets a translator, right?
Yeah, they'll get a translator. I mean, the whole world is at your behest.
Is good English the only quality you look in a leader?
Talking about English.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. No, I did not say that you talked about English.
The guy cannot speak in Luya, in public.
Ben, what I said is that his articulation of issues has been muted. And he has not been given that platform for us to understand. Just listen. Even in the public domain, Ben, you look at the public space that we've given this by-election in Kibra, the public is not as critical. We've created a space for Raila, Ruto, and Mudavadi. And we have allowed them to speak to us. Yet we live in a dispensation where we live in a dispensation where we can actually determine the framing and operate from a public interest logic.
Thank you for that. Kipchumba, you have been involved in this in some capacity or the other. I've seen you somewhere in Kibra. You know more than we do know. But do these candidates have the capacity to step away from it all and articulate, talk to the people of Kibra? The person they're trying to replace in Parliament, the late Ken Okoth, was able to do that. Do this particular set of aspirants or any other political aspirants for the most part, are they able to step away and say, look, Ruto is my party leader. Forget about that. This is what I have for Kibra. Are they able to do that?
Ben, you have to realize that, one, I must consider also that I have represented in court one of the candidates in that race as an advocate.
Right.
I have not consulted for them politically and other way. So I am within my right to comment on the issue. But when you look at all the 24 candidates, we have a threshold which the law has set. And when they were reflected upon the threshold, all of them were found to have met the requirements. So as a lawyer, I will say yes. Two, I need to dissuade us from the thinking that we are selecting the most popular musician in Kenya. We are electing a leader. We are electing somebody to represent, oversight, and legislate. We need to communicate to the fact that even the guy who is being replaced, the former, the late Ken Okoth, apart from that marijuana bill, we do not hear any other bill. So let us not put so many things. He had a good development record, which is of importance, if you ask me, because there is a member of parliament from my village known as Oscar Sudi. The world and Kenya have a lot of ideas about who Oscar Sudi is, but if you go today to the heart of Kapseret, people are happy with Oscar Sudi because they see roads passing, they see the road maintenance levy fund functioning. So if you ask them, they'll say, we don't want speeches, we want the development. They see schools coming up. What am I saying? When we come back to the Kibra race, I have no issue with a candidate speaking or not speaking or what have you. At the end of the day, the question is, does the electorate understand the candidate? If it is yes, does the candidate meet the requirement? If it is yes, it is now, there is the issue of the right to vote.
Okay.
The people in Kibra, the 118,000 voters, have a right to vote for the person they choose.
True.
When we come now to the
do you think
effect,
that the political party leaders impose themselves on the Kibra election, for example?
You cannot ban, unless there are independent candidates. When you come to a political party, it means there are structures. You remember what Obama did? Obama was the outgoing president, but he had to campaign for Clinton. We could not have argued that Obama ought not to have campaigned. You cannot remove the party leader. They are the people who carry the capital. If today you remove these party people, actually Imran, Mariga, and these other people, they'll all be equal. There will be nothing. There will be no advantage. And this is politics. You must organize within the political party. Right. And now, because it is Kenya, you must also organize through the tribe. But we need to look also at the issue, what Kibra has exposed. I went to Kibra recently to do something. I was going, there's a law court there, the criminal court. And when I left Kibra, I left asking myself a lot of things. I had never been to Kibra since I was born. But if you asked me, Kibra in itself has exposed Raila Odinga in a bad way, because Raila Odinga has been a minister of roads, Raila Odinga has been a prime minister, Raila Odinga was the secretary general of Kano. Right. But within all that, maybe he was developing the Langata part of Karen, maybe, I don't know. But if you go to Kibra, people are jumping from one straw of sewage to the other. You ask yourself, with all this liberation credential Raila Odinga carries, what has been happening? You ask yourself also, when you go there,
this is
there's one thing.
Framing.
No,
you cannot.
I am coming there. Just listen.
We're out of time.
There is one thing also, when you go there, you have to appreciate the Kirinyaga governor tremendously. We might have a lot of things about how Waiguru did, but she's the only person who tried to open up Kibra. When you go there, you will know that there is a government in Kibra known as Kenya. Projects. You will see the NYS projects and the flag of Kenya. You have to give it to her.
Okay. Just one quick point.
Quickly. This is negative framing. You know, there are societal problems that you cannot attribute to an individual and say that because someone has been a representative, they ought to have solved. You know, there are people who grew up in Kibra. Evans Kidero grew up, I think, in Mathare. Ken Okoth grew up in Kibra. They left, but the population of Kibra has kept on increasing. So even if you wanted to eliminate slums in Kenya, the society in itself does not provide for a situation where we are going to have an affluent city. So you cannot start framing all these societal problems that the society should address to a particular individual leader. Just like you cannot go to any other constituency and say that the historical problems in those constituencies are because an MP has not addressed them. I mean, is it in the province of an MP to address all the societal issues?
And again, when you look at the Kenyan constitution, like for instance, there's a minimum academic requirement for you to become a president or even become a governor. So there's assumed that you need to have some basic infrastructure. And in my understanding, at the National Assembly, they don't debate in Luhya or in Sheng. You must have capability or ability to at least speak English or Swahili. The other day I saw the speaker launching some programs in Swahili. So maybe it may be an advantage for another person. But you know, how are you going to interrogate Kenya's fiscal policy or monetary policy if you don't know what monetary policy is, fiscal policy is, and you don't have capacity to understand? You know, this is the reason why we're in that mood. We are told every day, party after party.
Ben, we have committees, Ben. We have committees for that reason. Because, just a minute, Ben. No. Let me just answer that.
Let me hear Mark. We'll get time.
You don't need to respond to that. It's first of all a fallacy to say that you don't have to speak for people to understand you. That's not the case. Politics is about being able to articulate issues. From the time of Socrates, you're not going to reinvent politics in 2019 to accommodate a candidate just because we have to accommodate them. The fact of the matter is leadership is about the ability to speak. And people say Kibaki was not a good articulator. That is revisionism. You go to the 80s and look at Kibaki. My friend, Kibaki could debate better than most people post-accident and post-age.
There's something we must know, Ben. I know we might have this textbook thinking about politics. Most people who analyze politics cannot hold a microphone and address a crowd. And I'm saying this with tremendous respect. Yes, I want to challenge Bichaji to go. We are having an election in 2022. If he gets 10,000 votes, I'll pay anything above. But the question is, we have committees in Parliament
to
where
get
specialized people
crystal ball,
so you don't want to tell people that Mariga or Imran will go to a committee.
So Mariga will sit on what? The football. Mariga will sit on the football.
Let's take a quick commercial break here on Inside Politics on KTN News. The voters in Kibra will be going to the ballot Thursday, November 7th, to decide who will be replacing the late Ken Okoth in the 12 parliaments.